Welcome to the 100th episode of the Strength Log. My name is Philip Willenstam. I'm a certified nutrition coach and a co-founder of Strength Log.
And I'm Daniel Richter, CEO of Strength Log and a certified personal trainer. You started boldly with trying to pronounce 100th.
Yes.
That's not commonly used in Swedish.
100 episodes, Daniel. And one thing that has really changed for me is I don't care as much anymore if I say words.
Me too. Now it's just interesting. Like that's why I noticed that.
No, but and that's personal development for me. I was so nervous in the beginning. English is not our first language, neither you or I, and I just felt silly and dumb. But now it's like, this is how I talk in English. You should hear me in Swedish. I'm not very good at that either.
Yeah, but you should hear Philip's Italian.
Oh, mamma mia, buongiorno.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah. 100 episodes. That's, I'm glad we got this far. And we'll keep on going.
So a short recap for more recent listeners or completely new listeners. We kicked this podcast off back February 1st, 2024. So a little bit more than 2 years ago. And we didn't even know if we were going to make it to 20 episodes or 30 episodes. But we were like, let's give it a shot. And here we are.
Yeah.
If we would have gotten here sooner if we had stuck to a more strict release schedule in the beginning. But we really didn't want to commit to that in the beginning because we had a lot of other shit going on, and recording this podcast was a lot of work. But only like a bit more than a month later than we should have been if we had released every week. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and we noticed that we had to utilize the magic of deadlines to get things going. Yeah, the podcasting that you and I have been doing in different podcasts since 2016 have really hammered home the magic of deadlines.
Yeah.
So now I use that in lots of other areas of my life as well.
Also, you could view it as the magic of regularity, doing that something very frequently.
Precisely. We know that if we haven't planned the episode by this day, then we won't have it ready by that day, and so on. So the aim, I suppose, was to do something like we did in Swedish, where we started podcasting and did so for 7 years or whatever it was, and bring that over to English. So meaning that an evidence-based podcast about strength training, but not too formal and academic, bit more friendly neighborhood podcasting and easier to digest. Casting a wider net, I suppose, but not too wide. It's still fairly nerdy at times.
I'm not going to claim that I have complete knowledge of all our quote-unquote competitors out there, but I feel like we're doing something not everyone is doing in this in this niche. There's some really good podcasts out there if you want to be super nerdy about strength training and health related questions, with episodes running for 3, 4, even 5 hours. I've seen with researchers and academics talking at a very high level. Not easily digestible for people like myself.
No, I agree. So different strokes for different blokes.
Yeah.
But we are very grateful for everyone listening, which is a number that keeps on growing, which is super exciting, because that means that we can keep on doing this, because this is a lot of fun. I look forward to this every week. If you want to support the show, just make sure to subscribe and keep on listening. That's enough for us. If you would want to take it one step further, you can also download our app, Strength Log, which is a workout tracker, where most of the stuff is free to use in that.
Also the big reason that this podcast is ad-free we mention the app or basically every episode, but that's not doing an ad. That's our main product. But we don't have advertisers for a simple reason. We are fortunate enough to have a really good product that we make money from, and we can afford to make this almost like a non-profit podcast.
Sure. So today's episode is gonna be a bit looser than normal.
Yeah.
We normally have some topic that we center the episodes around, often with the study as the foundation for it. But today we're doing a Q&A, and a bit looser, not only around training-related questions, but some more personal questions, some more just fun questions. So, yeah, if you want nerdier details about training or nutrition, this is perhaps not the episode for you. But the last one was, and probably the next one is going to be.
We also got some really nerdy training-related questions for this episode when we asked for questions in different forums, and I did not pick them for this manuscript. I'm saving them for later, because if a question would take 30 minutes to answer, it's not going in this episode. Let's have some. Let's keep our pulse up.
Yeah. So now, would you do the honors and start us off?
I would. The first one came in as a comment on a previous episode 98 on Spotify, from Ben. I love your podcast and have been using the free app version for a year now. Could you do an episode on your favorite premium features? Also, what's your thought process behind planning your workouts? Which parameters do you track? How important do you think the accumulated weight per week is for tracking progress? And is the belly circumference the number one parameter for long-term health? Or would you argue for another parameter? BR from Mainz, Germany, Deutschland.
I wonder if the R stands for Richter. That's one of the top 10 most common names in Germany. And while I looked at that, because I was curious, I looked at a list of the top 20 names from Germany. And if I recall correctly, 17 out of those were professions. Richter is a judge, and carpenter, stonemason, things like that. Yeah.
Shoemaker. Yeah.
Precisely. So, yeah, they're big on that. They're all about function in Germany. Okay, I forgot all the questions.
We had a lot of questions, and when I sent you the outline of this manuscript, you said we shouldn't start by talking about premium features in the app, and we shouldn't. So let's talk about how we think about planning our own workouts, and we'll get there.
I will mention my favorite premium feature, and that is all the programs and the routines that are premium, because so many people have gotten nice results from them. So I'll just say that. But now I can move on.
Yeah. So how do you plan your own workouts, Daniel?
Yeah, that's an hour-long episode. Or it's either that or just a super short answer, which is that I just look at what I did last time and try to take one step further from that. But that's not entirely true as well. It's true when you look at the micro level. It was a long time since we used all of those fancy terms, like that a week is called, what do you even call it? A microcycle, and then the month is a macrocycle. Yeah, we left that behind.
And even longer than that is like a mesocycle or something.
Yeah, something like that. I don't even remember. Because, like long-term listener has already caught on to, my training changes in seasonality, and that is like the ecosystem which the weekly workouts live in. So right now I'm doing more low volume but higher intensity workouts, and I try to one-up the workouts every time. But sooner or later that's going to end, and I'm going to lower the weights and do more volume again, likely, because that's how it usually goes. But the thought process is about taking a step forward, but depending on how the workout week or workout month is looking, that might not be every workout, because as soon as you start increasing the volume, every workout can't be hard. You gotta have many light and medium workouts in there, and you can't keep taking steps forward in them every week. This is when you've left the beginner stage behind and you're more at the like intermediate to advanced level, where gains take longer to realize. Like you might need a month of training to get stronger. Whereas a beginner might get stronger from workout to workout. So this is there's some more advanced stuff. But still, when it takes a month to move forward, I look at that month as taking a step forward from the previous month, the month that came before. A bit more volume, a bit more weight, more reps, whatever. Making it harder and more challenging in some way, until I feel that now I've reached some kind of peak and I need to start going down the other side of the hill.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I feel we're both almost in the same camp of having worked out for so long that we can almost do this in our sleep. I miss the days when I followed more advanced training programs to a T, where I was a slave under the program. These days, I go to the gym 4 mornings per week, usually, sometimes 5 lately. And I use one of my favorite free features in the app, because I know what I'm going to do that day. I know if it's my shoulder day or something like that. And I just open an empty new workout, and then I add the exercises I'm going to do from my most used list in the app that you get to first when you click add an exercise. And then I have the feature copy sets from last workout enable. And then I take a minute just sitting looking at what do I want to beat today? What do I want to do that's more than what I did the same day last week? Yeah. And I know a lot of people out there wish that everything was AI and super automated, but I appreciate this minute or two where I actually need to consider what I'm going to do.
Yeah, same here.
That's something I would never outsource to automation, or what people like to call AI. It's just a large language model. It's not real AI, I'm sorry, but sure. I want to think about what I'm going to do. And sometimes my plan is going to fail sometimes. I've been working out for a long time. I can't always be at my best. I've also been losing weight lately because I walk so damn much. I don't feel it has affected my strength that much, but maybe a little. And sometimes I'm not at my peak. And then I try to adapt, and I go into my yearly best list or something, and I find a rep range where I think I can do something better than I did 3 months ago or something.
Yeah.
You should, I try to be a student of myself.
Yeah. That's a good thing. Know yourself. Yeah. You mentioned a parameter that you obviously have tracked because you said you lost weight. And one of the questions Bird here from Germany was, which parameters do you track?
I'm back to tracking my weight.
You always know that when you stop tracking your weight, that's probably because you have gained.
Exactly.
Then one starts to get curious again when you feel like you've shaped up your diet a bit or something like that. I wonder what I weigh. If you glance carefully at it.
I've been logging my body weight in our app since 2018, which was when we made the app initially. And when I scroll through my log of body weights, I can see huge gaps where, like, here I weighed 127 kilos. Then I didn't weigh myself for 6 months. And when I did weigh myself, I weighed 136 kilos. I wonder why I didn't weigh myself.
I don't need that negativity in my life.
Exactly. No, I my body weight is not the measurement I care the most about. I'm not on a diet. I'm not trying to lose weight. It's just a very positive side benefit from me doing a lot more exercise these days. I track my strength in the lifts I care about. mainly the bench press, the overhead press, stuff like that. I track my rep PRs or yearly records. I track my cardio fitness level through my Apple Watch. That has become something I care deeply about these days. I want to improve. I'm at below average, which I want to get up to above average. That would be sweet.
Yeah.
And to something else he asked about, the belly circumference. I don't track it with the tape measurements. Maybe I should, but I sort of track it because I own a belt, which I use most days, and I needed to add 2 new holes to it. And I might need to add a 3rd new hole to it, which means my belly circumference has gone down.
Yeah.
Which is sort of sweet.
Same here. I take that measurement maybe once every 6 months or something, just to keep the log filled in the app. But I don't measure it like on the weekly unless I'm doing a focused diet, which was a while now. But yeah, he asked if that's a better parameter for long-term health, and yeah, it's a really good simple measurement to like get an estimate of someone's body fat levels, which correlates heavily with health. So especially if you can get like height, weight, and the belly circumference, that gives you a really good picture in an easy manner. So yeah, that's good to track. But of course, the more you know about how these parameters interplay and what the exceptions might be, the better, because it's obviously not the whole truth. I also want to address, before we move on to more questions, because we've got something to cover. He asks, how important do you think the accumulated weight per week is for tracking progress? And it's a bit tricky, because I think that measurement, it correlates with making progress in your strength training. But if you start chasing that parameter for the sake of it, you might go wrong, because if that increases because you are doing more reps at the same weight, or you're doing similar reps at heavier weights, or you're adding sets, then yeah, that's probably gonna correlate with you doing better training and getting better training results. But if you start doing funky stuff, like using super light weights and basically doing cardio with it or something like that, it might steer you astray. So I think it's an important measurement, but it depends what makes up that accumulated weight.
Back in my powerlifting days, when I got closer to my competitions and I started lifting heavier, I could see a clear trend of my accumulated weight per week going down, because I was doing lower rep work. I was peaking my strength. So I find it more useful to look at hard working sets and stuff like that, because my weight volume won't always go up, even if I'm having a very productive training cycle.
Yeah, I look more at the sets as well.
And as soon as you start to do some bodybuilding in there, it's going to get real confusing when you add exercises you might not have been doing before, which add a fuck ton of tonnage, like the leg press or something, compared to squats.
We're moving on to Andreas Steinebo, long-time listener, way back from our Swedish podcast. And he wrote in our Swedish Facebook community, we got one Swedish, one English, how do you handle setbacks and keep your spirits up? I'm referring mostly to how you handle life's ups and downs while still motivating yourself to exercise. Is it the consequences of not exercising that keeps you motivated?
Might be on a subconscious level. I'm not sure. First off, I don't like to say the word blessed, because I'm not religious, but I feel like I've been blessed with a long period of my life without major setbacks. Nothing terrible has happened to me. I have a great relationship. I have a great job. I have good friends, and I haven't... no one close to me has gotten really sick or died or something like that that might get people out of sorts. So I don't know how I would react to a personal catastrophe. So I can't say.
But then you could argue, because some people, you've had some injuries over the decades,
Sure.
like in your back and in your knees, which you just kept on training through and come out stronger and healthier on the other side. But a lot of people would use that as the excuse to never train again.
Yeah, sure. Didn't think about that. I've been the guy at the gym on crutches more than once.
Yeah.
Forced to train around my injuries, which has been frustrating at times, but also motivating. But like, if I've had long periods of only doing like the bench, deadlift, and squats, and all of a sudden I can't squat or deadlift, but this is a good time to work on my arms, baby.
Yeah, and I find even if I just get like an ache in some body part keeping me from training that exercise, that can make me depressed on like a small time scale. But then I usually, like you mentioned, find some other hair to chase after instead. But yeah, I think the key here is motivation, because I do think that you and I are very, very, very strongly motivated to train. But that's not to say that we are always inspired to train. People always mix those expressions up. I think that you and I have a deep core motivation for training.
Going to the gym is a rock solid part of my identity.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes people say that you don't need to be motivated to brush your teeth. But yeah, that's exactly what you need to be. If you took away the motivation, meaning that you keep your teeth healthy and free from infections, no one would brush their teeth. And you took away the fresh effect and the
don't kink
shame on your breath. If you remove all those motivations, no one would brush their teeth. Maybe 1 in 100 for some weird reason. But it's the motivation that keeps you doing it, even if you're not inspired to do it.
Yeah.
So that's so weird to me. But yeah, I feel lucky as well. In maybe that's a similar case, that when you have a strong motivation, you don't really notice all the obstacles on the way. You just move around them or through them or something. But the other thing I thought when I read this is that I handle my setbacks and I lift my spirits by working out or exercising. If I'm in a foul mood, I know by now that if I go for a walk or if I go train, this problem is gonna either disappear entirely or shrink to like a microscopic version of how I perceived it before. So yeah,
it's almost a cure-all.
Almost. It gives you distance to it, and probably a big part of it is all the different like hormonal effects and things like that as well.
I've been thinking a lot about that with my walking streak now, because I've had more than one Sunday, for instance, where I felt like, if this was before my streak, I'm motivated to keep my streak alive. This is a Sunday where I'm very hungover. I did not get a lot of sleep, and I would have spent the whole day on the couch watching movies or YouTube or whatever, and just being in a bad mood, eating junk food. And now when I force myself to leave the apartment and get back like 2-3 hours later, I feel like a completely different person. It's wonderful how exercise can do that to a person.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, I'm still gonna be tired.
Yeah.
But
so, third question is directed at you. Deadlift and beer on Reddit.
Good
nice
username.
Yeah, but they don't mix like acutely because beer fills your belly too much. Deadlift and whiskey goes along better. Anyway, when it comes to caffeine, Philip seems to go with either pills or Red Bulls. Being a hedonist when it comes to food and drink, I would expect him to be an espresso or pour-over nerd.
Yeah.
How is Philip's relationship with coffee?
Philip loves coffee, but coffee does not love Philip.
Yeah.
I drink coffee. I don't drink a lot of it. I used to drink like too much of it, but I don't want to go into details. It makes my stomach upset. So
now you don't go into details, but in other episodes you do.
This one is for the kids.
About how you warm up for squats. That was very detailed.
Well, it's partly a time management situation as well. I get out of bed at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I want to be at the gym at 5:30. Brewing a cup of coffee would add minutes to that. Then trying to drink the coffee while I'm working. I've never been a fan. I used to be at a powerlifting club where everybody was chugging coffee in between their sets, and I don't want to drink coffee. I'm working out. So
that's what I do in my garage.
I don't find coffee to be the best sports beverage. I like cold water when I'm at the gym.
Sure, but you can hardly accuse me of doing sports when I work out. My gym.
That's true too. No,
distantly removed.
A third issue is that I've had really, really good coffee, and most of the coffee served in homes in Sweden might not qualify as what I consider good coffee. The coffee my colleagues
This is why you shouldn't have nice things.
No, you should never. You should never
Exactly.
learn to appreciate the good things. I think
Precisely.
It was the journalist Christopher Hitchens, who's dead now. He used to say he loved the whiskey, Scottish whiskey, and he said, "I never buy the expensive stuff because I don't want to learn to love it."
Exactly.
His go-to was Johnny Walker Black because he traveled the world and he could always find a bottle of Johnny Walker Black in a duty-free shop on the airport. It was readily available to him. So he even said no to finer spirits because once you get a taste for the good stuff, the more mediocre stuff ceases to be interesting, at least to me.
Yeah,
and
I love principles.
Yeah, I just don't want to chug a liter of mediocre coffee each day because I know what it does to my stomach. And yeah, I prefer to have a really good cup of coffee once in a while.
I chug a liter a day, but I'm starting to get. It irks me that the price is going up so much now.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Do you know how much one of these Swedish snus costs?
Yeah, that's why I stopped. I felt like I was being chased into a corner by all the regulations.
We have another question from Seven Worm on our Reddit community. Do you notice any kind of differences in lifting/gym culture between different regions of the world? For instance, Sweden versus other European countries, the UK, the US, etc. Also, do you speak any other languages besides Swedish and English?
So for the culture question, I don't really feel equipped to answer questions about gym culture in the different regions. It's more like what I perceive them to be sitting here up in the Nordics. But I do think that Sweden has come a long way in what do you say, like generalizing, would that be the expression? Strength training, like meaning that it's done more by the general population these days. It's seen as something normal to do, like jogging was a couple of decades ago. It's strength training is now something that you find people from almost every demographic doing here in Sweden. And I think Sweden might be like on a global scale a bit further along than many countries, maybe a bit further along than the US. Probably quite similar to the UK, but on the other hand, UK tends to lag behind a bit in some health measurements compared to the Nordic countries, so maybe not. But yeah, I think that's one other big thing. Like of course, we see, I mean, women getting into the gym, that was many more decades ago, but now we see like academics and so on getting into the gym. So that might be one difference culturally. But I think like the other parts are catching up to that.
I hope so. I think Sweden has been far ahead of other countries, but other countries are catching up. Sweden is sort of like an outlier on progressive measurements around the world value surveys on equality and stuff like that. We're always an outlier in a positive sense. And I think you can see that to a certain degree in gym cultures, even compared to like Southern Europe, where gym cultures, it's hard to find decent gyms in some parts of Southern Europe, and it's mostly going to be men. It's mostly going to be a specific type of men, and other parts of society are not there yet.
Yeah, I say regarding quality, the gyms in Sweden are generally of a really high quality.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
I mean, the best brand in the world for barbells and stuff is Swedish, Eleiko. So
yeah,
we have that going for us. But I mean, there's some fun differences as well. When I look at the gym population in the US, you see a lot more close grip bench pressing going on in athletics and stuff like that, compared to Sweden, where it's much more common to do a wide grip bench press. It doesn't really say anything. It's just something fun to observe. You can see that at the Worlds as well, when powerlifters or bench pressers compete against it. Oh, there's the American lifter. He almost does a close grip bench press, maybe more like a narrow grip bench press.
Yeah, we also see the US more frequently use so-called deadlift bars, which are thinner and longer bars, so that we will bend more and make the deadlift easier. Whereas in Sweden, we almost only use the so-called stiff bars, the thicker and longer, so it doesn't bend as easily. That's another difference I see.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca, Daniel?
Yeah, about that. Yeah, no, so I speak a bit. I've practiced a bit of Spanish, but it's often like it's at the point where if I'm in a store or in a restaurant, I can like take the initiative in the conversation and like ask for whatever I want or so. But then when they respond, I'm dumbfounded.
Yeah, you're fucked. I'm fucked too.
Yeah.
I can read a menu decently in Italian or German, but if they were to talk back to me in their native language, I would be. I have zero clue. Please stop talking to me.
Sí, claro.
Yeah. I just
I had Spanish as my third language in school because in Sweden you start learning English in like third grade, and then a couple of grades later you add a third language, and Spanish was my pick. And then I practiced a bit with a language app, Duolingo. But really, if you want to learn the language, you gotta move there and engage with it.
I could see myself living at least partly in Italy in the future. And then I might pick it up again. But the hard thing is how they in a completely different way construct their sentences. That's the big hurdle. You can learn the words and the expressions, but in Swedish we build our sentences in one way, and in Italian they build it the complete opposite way.
Yeah, and I suppose English is a bit in between.
Yeah,
Swedish and English sentences are not built in the same order as well.
But German and Swedish has a lot in common. It's from the same language. I don't know what you call it, but root language, something like that.
Yeah. I don't see myself moving to Spain. It's already hot and it's only gonna get hotter. So I don't know what I'm doing with Spain. Maybe I'm preparing for all the Spaniards to move to Sweden
because of global warming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
It's getting hot. All right. Speaking of hot, Jake Wisdom on Reddit, he wants you to name a few of your desert island wines and me to name a few of my desert island books. And it wasn't until I saw what you filled out here in our earlier script that I understood that, oh, he means to bring to desert island, not like books about desert islands. or wines from desert islands.
No,
it also reminds me of when a friend brought a bottle of desert wine and we thought it was like desert, like the Sahara. Oh, so it's like from the desert. That's cool.
Are you talking about the dessert wine?
Yeah. We realized later on when we tasted it.
Oh, sweet. This must be made from mangoes from a deserted island. Oh, all right.
So it means a desert island, not a I don't know. A desert island. Is that when there are lots
That's
of
a floating
island.
There's a traditional French dessert. I'm not going to pronounce it in French because I can't speak French. It's called floating island in English. I almost said in Swedish, but it's basically you make a crème anglaise, which is a sort of vanilla sauce, and then you just have some poached meringues floating on top.
Oh, nice.
It's sort of out of fashion, but it's one of the great traditional desserts. So let's go with that one.
Sounds sweet.
It's not as heavy as you would think because the meringue is so light. It's just like a cloud. And the crème anglaise is not like buttercream. It's not. It's more. It's just like a thin vanilla sauce.
Yeah, but the sweetness, I feel like, will be surprising. Anyway, go ahead and answer, Jake, so you two wine nerds get your fill.
I mean, if I'm going to a deserted island, I expect it to be hot. I expected the food I will have access to will come from the sea, meaning fish, shellfish, seabirds, stuff like that. So I'm mostly gonna bring like champagne, Chardonnay, maybe some Albarino, which is a Spanish wine that goes great with seafood, for instance. So I'm gonna skip the heavy tannin-rich red wines like a Bordeaux, Napa Valley, Cabernet Sauvignon or something.
Antarctica is deserted.
Is it an island though?
I don't know. It's a floating island of ice.
I think there's some land mass under there. I mean, we could expand the definition. The whole world is full of islands. Look at Africa, just one big island. Oh, and I mean, if I know in advance I'm going to go to a deserted island, which is weird, I'm going to bring a lot of expensive champagnes like the Bollinger RD, the Taittinger Comté de Champagne, the Krug Special Cuvée or Vintage Krug or anything by Yaxelos.
It would be interesting to know that you're going to a deserted island and you're packing wines instead of like flint and steel and knives.
And a book about surviving on a deserted island.
Precisely. That was the first book I thought of. There's got to be a book that along the lines of the edible flora of deserted islands. I'd bring that book.
When I was young, I had a book about surviving in the wilderness. I would bring that book. It was about how to make traps, how to make fire, and how to fish without fishing gear. And I would bring a book like that. I would also bring The Lord of the Rings by Tolkien.
Yeah, I think that's a good line of thinking regarding books. If you're going to be deserted and read something for a long time, something long that will last you a while. So I got thinking about fantasy series as well. Yeah. The Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. I never finished that because I caught up with the author and then I lost interest while he finished. Or, well, he didn't finish. He actually died and someone else finished the series. So I'd bring that. That's like, I don't know, 15, 20 books or something by now, 15 maybe. And also the Realm of the Elderlings series by Robin Hobb. That's also a good long fantasy series.
How many books?
I'd bring those. It's many trilogies. Maybe it's like 4 or 5 trilogies by now. Let's say
nice.
4. They are also great. I like those. Most of them, at least.
It's very good because when you have a lot of books, there's always pages you can rip out of the books without destroying the story. You have a lot of pages in the beginning and the end that might be just information about the printing and the copyright and stuff like that. And you can use that to start a fire.
Yeah.
And then once you have started your fire, the goal will always be to keep the fire alive. It should never burn out completely.
Yeah. So relevant to survival. Okay, so from a relevant username as well. Bearbutt1337, so Bearbutt Leet from Reddit, has a question about bears and bear butts.
Yeah.
Whom of you is more likely to start a fight with a bear, and secondly, to win a fight against a bear? What you got?
I thought about that survey that came out during like the pandemic a few years back, where they had asked people what animal would you win a fight against, and women were very reasonable. Like, I wouldn't win a fight against a lot of animals, especially not a bear. But men were, I think there were like 15% of men thought they could win a fight against a bear. And
I mean, a very, very small bear, a sick bear.
There's always going to be edge cases. A human under certain conditions, being lucky that they might be able to win a fight against a bear. But as a general principle, no human will win a fight against a full-grown, healthy bear that's in a fighting mood.
Yeah, but if you scrutinize the question, he's actually asking about probabilities. But I'm going to be democratic and say that, yeah, equal probability for you and me to win a fight against a bear. It does bring to mind a daydream I occasionally get, say like a video game where you could simulate yourself fighting against different animals. And then that brings into the probability. Like, in such a simulator, would we win 1 in 1,000 fights against a bear? 1 in 100, maybe? So who knows? But then, and also applying probability to who's more likely to start a fight with a bear. Because
That's
first
me.
I thought that, yeah, maybe, because I thought like, well, maybe I'm in the woods with my kids and I can't run away from them, so that would force me to start the fight. Whereas maybe Philip, he can escape. But then I thought about it, well, where are there bears in Sweden? And you are much closer to bear territory than I am here in the south. Yeah. I mean, a bear has to be really lost to get down here. Unless it's like a circus bear that has escaped. Which would slightly increase the probability again. But yeah, it's...
I mean,
yeah.
I would feel real dumb trying to start a fight with a bear. What did the bear do
You're
to
the
me?
aggressor. Yeah, that's right. I mean, the bear is just starting the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also did a lot of Googling about different kinds of bears. And I mean, if you definitely don't want to fight a brown bear, which are also in some parts of the world known as grizzly bears. You especially wouldn't want to fight a polar bear. They view humans as food where they live. So take those two out of the equation. You're not going to do well. And people were like, yeah, but the black bear, we don't have those in Sweden, but they are common in North America. They are less likely to attack a person. It was like polar bear say goodnight, brown bear play dead, black bear fight back, something like that. But a black bear can still be like 500 kilos.
Yeah.
And then there's some smaller bear breeds, I think they have a rather small bear in China. I'm not talking about the panda, but like sun bear or something. But 200 kilos, Daniel. 200 kilos with claws and big teeth.
And a protective fur as well. I mean, a bear at the same body weight as a human is probably still going to be the victor in most cases.
I believe so too.
We're moving on back to training territory now. Another question from Reddit.
How to train to fight a bear.
Yeah, comes in from username same share, and then he has inverted delete numbers, so 7331. Asks if you could go back in time with all your knowledge about training and about yourself and train in a particular way from an early age, how would you train?
Oh, I would do everything completely different from what I did. I was very lazy when I was young, but I discovered American football and I fell in love with American football. But all I did was basically train when we had workouts together. And when I was a bit older, I started going to the gym and I ego lifted like all teenage boys do. But if I could control how I would train from, let's say, 6, 7, 8 years old, I would be much more inclined to put myself on like track and field training, gymnastics, things to just get some general athletics in there, work on speed and jumping ability and movement abilities, body control. And as I grew older, I would start to specialize more. Lifting would of course be a small part of the equation, but I think that the thing I was lacking and which set me up for the injuries that ruined my football career was being way too one-dimensional. I was big, I was strong, but I lacked athletic abilities beyond that, and I would have focused on stuff like building up knee health, because I had very loose, I don't know the expression in English.
Lax. I think.
Yeah, lax, which later led to my knee injury. So I would have focused more on doing movements in the gym to strengthen my knees instead of just, how much can I quarter squat?
No.
Stuff like that. Yeah. But I mean, we're not born in test labs. This is undoable, but...
Yeah, precisely. And it all comes down to interests, because even if you know something, do you want to pour in a lot of time towards something? Yeah. But I think the big thing for me would have been to bring the knowledge of how much change practice can make. Say that, I mean, when I was like 6 or 7 years old, most boys tried out soccer, and so did I. And I quickly found that, okay, I'm not very good at this. Everyone is faster and more skilled with the ball than me. So shortly after, I quit. But now, much later on, when they needed parent trainers for my son's soccer team, and I started doing that, and I just like to get some familiarity with the ball, started doing drills myself back in my yard. And I noticed that, okay, I'm getting much better really fast, and just knowing that and going back to, like, even as a 6-year-old that's not among the top half in terms of athleticisms, maybe I would have been if I would have moved more and exercised more, but even at that point, just daily drilling would put many kids in the top in their teams. So that would have been interesting just to see. Once again, it comes down to if kid Daniel would have been interested to practice something. Because I tried soccer, did some tennis, judo, then I did some running, did some boxing. And in all of these sports, just knowing that, hey, even no matter how you feel about your talent and skill right now, know that if you start practicing a little bit on most days, you're quickly going to get better. And that might have made it much more fun than just going once a week to judo and not feeling like I'm very good at this or whatever.
Did you
so that would be a cool thing.
Did you grow up with supportive parents? Did they push you? Were they there for you?
I'd say they were. My father was always into sports, so he would like me to try them. I think he was the driving factor behind me trying the sports. But then the bigger impression he probably had was that he modeled exercising, because he always exercised, so it felt like a natural thing for me to do later on when I started becoming a man.
Yeah. I grew up in a household with lots of siblings and parents that were always busy working. They had their own businesses, and none of them exercised. None of my siblings exercised. I was almost like the freak in the family that took an interest into sports. Even before I discovered American football, I just like you, I tried a lot of sports. My issue was I was always one head taller than all the rest of the boys, and I had grown so fast that my body control was not there yet. It arrived around 13, 14 years for me. It could have arrived earlier if I had stuck to more different kinds of sports, perhaps. But my parents, they were like, "Oh, do we need to drive you to practice? Can't you get there by?" So there was, I felt like if the older version of myself could be there for the younger version of myself, I might have discovered a love for a lot more stuff, because I believe kids should not stick to just one thing. They should try lots of things and maybe do a little bit every day, or almost every day. Go out climbing, go to basketball practice once a week, go to handball practice twice per week or something. I mean, kids are not born to be to only do sports. Other things matter too, academics and stuff like that. But there's a great camaraderie in sports.
Yeah, and it's also about not closing the window, because as mentioned, for me as a kid, I had a very fixed mentality that this is my level of skill or talent, and it's not until much, much later that I've appreciated how extremely malleable we are, both our brains and our bodies. And I think that is like the useful lesson for kids, even if they don't engage in sports later on. Just is knowing that they have agency and they can change a lot of things about themselves, and they are in control more than they might think. So that's cool. Turning, just to wrap up the answer to questions, if we're talking about strength training here, it's the same old advice that goes for everyone. Basic progressive strength training with the compound lifts. That's all you do the entire career.
No, I almost agree. If I would have liked to, at a younger age, learn some of the Olympic movements as well. Because I believe those are easier to learn at an early age than when I tried it in my 30s, and I was like, I'm way too stiff and impatient for this. Yeah. I would have loved to do cleans and stuff when I was 15, work on my power game. Tompa Dude writes in our Reddit community, "Congratulations. Here are 2 questions you could consider. What's the biggest mistake modern fitness culture makes that the golden era of bodybuilding got right? And do you think modern lifters over-optimize details like tempo, rest times, reps in reserve, science-based stuff, etc. at the expense of just keeping it simple, lifting heavy and intense, and simply being a monster in the gym, Daniel?"
Yes and no. If we look at, so as for things that they did right in the golden era of bodybuilding, we gotta understand that we are looking at the very, 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 very tip of the iceberg when we're looking at that time period. We're basically looking at a couple of dozens of famous bodybuilders and see how they train, and we're completely disregarding the masses that train in that time and everything they did. So if we look at that top of the bodybuilders, the thing many of them got right was that they trained hard and intensely and really tried to exert themselves. But I mean, the top bodybuilders today do that as well, so that's not really something that I mean, if we're gonna look at the top from that period, we gotta look at the top today. If we look at the wider base from that era, there are hundreds probably of silly things they did that the base is no longer doing today. So it
Hopefully.
would be an unfair question to compare Tom Platz and Arnold Schwarzenegger to a random gym goer in today's gym.
Yeah.
That's not a fair comparison. What's that? But yeah, training hard and intensely is very often going to be the right answer for a lot of people. You can certainly overdo it, but if that's all you do, it will compensate for many other mistakes. Because I mean, at that time period, they believed in spot reduction. They believed that higher reps led to fat loss. They believed that if you did full body exercises before isolation exercises, the hormonal response would trigger more growth than that. There were lots of funny ideas about dieting and protein and so on. So yeah, we have eliminated thousands of things that have proven not to be true. So then moving over to, do we over-optimize details today? Yes and no again. I think it's maybe a bit unfair to say so, because maybe the people or that focus on these details, or the ones that sometimes look at these details, maybe they wouldn't have trained hard anyway. It's just another distraction, but it's not really even if they didn't know about it, they wouldn't have trained harder as well, anyways. But yeah, I mean, it's a leading question, but if you keep it simple, lift heavy and intense, yeah, you're probably gonna get good results. You might take some unnecessary risks, perhaps, because it does sound a little bit like you're throwing caution to the wind. But certainly, those who train harder will often get better results.
I think that the kind of personalities today that have a tendency to over-optimize their training and get worse results from it would have been exactly the same in the 70s or 80s. I think they would have made the same mistakes of trying to over-optimize, focusing on not seeing the forests for all the trees. Yeah. There might be a hidden question in here also, because I loosely follow the world of bodybuilding, and there's a lot of discussion going around about the golden age of bodybuilding, how physiques have gotten out of control in bodybuilding today. People are too big. Aesthetics have been thrown out of the window. It's just about packing on mass. But I believe if Arnold or Flex Wheeler or Tom Platz had been put in the modern era, they would have been just as big as your Ronnie Coleman's or Phil Heath's or Big Ramy, which is one of the big examples of someone maybe not looking very aesthetic.
Yeah. So if we would convert that, meaning that they didn't have access as easily to all the drugs we have now, and as easily access to good quality steroids and whatever. So yeah, you could convert that into a big mistake today, that too many people are getting on these things when they shouldn't. Yeah.
I mean, it's a epidemic of bodybuilders dying before age 35.
Yeah, and I mean, people getting their first steroids when they get their first gym membership. Yeah. It's I used to be more liberal to this. Now I'm more flaunting my personal view, which is that it's not going to give you what you're after. But just don't.
You can be liberal in the sense that people should be allowed to do whatever they want with their own bodies, but you can still be judgmental about it. Yeah. This is something I practice on a daily basis.
Moving on to number 9, Bachmataurus.
Sounds like a dinosaur.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Or a composer. Comes from our subreddit, which is called Strength Log, by the way, just like the podcast and the app. Congrats on 100 episodes. Thank you. I hope you continue to the streak to 200 and beyond. So do I. Question: what results from a scientific study were you most surprised by, or formulated a bit different? What's your previously strongest non-science-based opinion that got challenged by empirical evidence? And I'm going to jump at this because I think the study that we talked about in our first episode is a kind of a good example of this. It's not exactly what I asked for, but close. It was the study that compared 25 grams of milk protein to 100 grams of protein in a single serving, and then had a long measurement period after that to see what happened with the amino acids. And it showed that the 100-gram dose kept on getting incorporated into muscle protein. And this was kind of one of the biggest and best pieces of evidence that you don't need to take 20 to 30 grams of protein every third or fourth hour, which was like kind of something that many, including us, suspected at this point. Or maybe I'm just trying to brush up the history. But this, because we had been thinking about this podcast for a while, I was really on the fence by now, and then when this study came out, I felt like, yeah, we gotta get these news out there, because you and I had been podcasting about protein for many years and kept on spouting that
This was
frequent protein dose.
This was written in stone in our community.
So this was kind of like I almost felt like an obligation I have to make amends and get this out there. So that's a big one in my study history, for certain.
Yeah, and I'm still surprised that this hasn't been more widely spread. People should listen to our podcast more. No, but I still see this claim almost daily about the 30 grams is all you can absorb from a single meal and everything else is wasted. And I'm like, no, it was wrong. We were all wrong. I was wrong. Daniel was wrong. Everybody was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I like that one. And I got one other too. That's, I mean, the jury's maybe kind of a bit out, but I thought there were bigger differences in strength gains by training with light versus heavy weights. We now know that for muscle growth wise, they yield pretty much the same results, at least in a controlled setting where you force someone to do it. I think from a practicality standpoint, you're going to see different results by someone doing 10 or 40 reps per set.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you do it, it seems to yield similar results for muscle growth. Now, when we go over to strength gains, we see that lifting heavier loads, they yield slightly better strength gains than training with light weights. The effect is small if we use like the classifications they use in the studies. So both training styles leads to large improvements in strength, and then there's a small difference in benefits from training with heavier weights. But I think that we need to see some more research, especially on trained, specialized populations to get more clues here. But we see both in studies and in practicality, people making really good strength gains by training with light weights. And go back 10 years, and I was much more adamant about heavyweights is definitely the way to go. I mean, I still think you need to practice lifting it and so on, but you can get really good strength gains from training with light weights too.
Yeah. I talked to a bodybuilder the other day. He was way bigger than I, shoulders, chest, stuff like that.
Was it me?
You wish. And I asked him what he bench pressed, and he was like, my PR is 120 kilos.
PR?
Why? You're so
big. I did 40 reps with it.
And he was like, I have some nagging shoulder issues. Yeah, but who doesn't? You should be able to bench press 200 kilos, I told him.
Yeah, totally worth the risks for him to get into that now. And especially, I don't know if that person used steroids, but we talked briefly in an episode a couple of months back about how steroids, they make your muscle grow, but they make your tendons brittle, it seems.
That's sort of a big one too. And that's not something we did not used to believe, but we did not know about it.
Yeah, so I don't know how established that is, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. For those who are curious, neither me or Philip have used steroids or are planning to do so.
Oh.
We'll Let
I
you
forgot
know if
to
you-
say that if I were to go back and coach my 6-year-old self, smack dab, here's some steroids, boy.
Yeah, especially before puberty.
Yeah, that would be great. We're kidding. I know that sometimes we get angry letters from people that don't realize we're joking. So I'm saying it
Yeah.
now. We're joking.
Yeah.
Tegius.
I also want to add, when I said light weights regarding the training, I mean like 50% of your 1 rep max or 60%, something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
light in the context of heavy strength training.
Yeah.
Not the, pink dumbbells that weigh a pound, just to
No.
make that clear.
The Tracy Anderson dumbbells.
Yeah. Moving on.
Tegius Chromis also commented on our subreddit strength log. You have previously mentioned the diminishing returns of additional rest time between sets. What does the science and your experience say about the diminishing returns of rest time between sessions? How would you optimize to reduce wasted / surplus recovery time?
Yeah, so just to reiterate, he says that we have mentioned diminishing return between rest time between sets, but now he wants to know rest time between sessions. And
Yeah.
I would argue that it is not a diminishing return pattern between sessions. Between sets, yes, up to a ridiculous point. You get better and better results from your rest time the longer you wait, but the magnitude of them, the increase decreases. So it's much bigger difference resting 2 minutes than 1 minute, but the difference is not equally large when you go from 2 minutes to 3 minutes, because it diminishes all the time, kind of halving every time. But between sessions, I don't say we have a pattern of diminishing returns. I would say we have a classic inverted U shape, where there is an optimal rest time between sessions, but you can rest too little and you can rest too long. And of course, no one knows where that optimal rest time between sessions is. And sometimes you might want to train before that time period anyway. That's the first thing I thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought about when I heard that question. Because it's not like rest time between sets. They have a plateau after a while, like after, say, 10 minutes to be sure, we basically have a plateau where you're not going to be able to perform better. And there's not much difference after 5 minutes. So like, depending on what you're doing and how tired you are. But there's a plateau. I mean, resting 20 minutes instead of 10 minutes is going to have a minimal difference. And yeah, you might start getting some of that U shape in there as well, that you start to deteriorate in terms of
Yeah, I think so
performance.
too.
But we don't have the same kind of plateau in rest time between sessions. Maybe they both have this inverted U shape.
I don't want to accuse Tegius Chromis of anything. This is more of a me issue, but almost every time people write about diminishing returns, I feel like people think that it's not worth doing just because the returns are less. And that goes for rest time, that goes for adding a set, adding some reps. If you get the most bang for your bucks doing your first hard set, and then you get a bit more bang for your bucks from your second and third set, and maybe even less from your fourth set, you're still getting added benefits. I hate the term diminishing returns because people don't get it.
It ties back to training hard and intensely enough. It's diminishing returns is language used of those who don't train hard.
That's my impression of it, at least. I can be wrong.
Of which I am one, I should also add.
Yeah. So I love diminishing returns. When I had clearer goals, I tried to find even the slightest returns by adding more and more and more. And it worked for a long, long time. And I think that a big difference between someone going to the gym 4 times per week for, say, an hour and not getting great results, and someone going to the gym 4 times per week for 2 hours and might be viewed as others at the gym as more lazy because he or she is sitting longer on the bench in between the sets or something. But you see that, that person can bench press more than twice as much as the first person. Yeah, because they have embraced the diminishing returns in a positive sense. You will, and over time it will add up to huge returns. Every person I know that's an elite bench presser or squatter are doing a lot of things in the gym that other people view as unnecessary. Why are they doing so many sets? Why are they resting for 6 minutes between hard sets? This piece of equipment should be free to use for anyone right now, because you should never rest between more than 90 seconds between sets. If you want to be mediocre, go with that. If you want to be really elite at something, you're going to need to embrace these diminishing returns.
Yeah, and rest time is such a classic trap, because the one who... Say when I do my really quick workouts, just going back and forth between exercises, keeping rest time to minimum, I look very busy, and that might look very disciplined. But if I were disciplined about my results, I would make the commitment and the investment of resting long between sets to get a better training effect. But I'm not currently in a state at those times where I want to prioritize training to that extent. I can't take 90 minutes instead of 30 minutes to do that workout. But if I would have been more serious about getting results, I would have done that. But it would have looked more lazy, because I would have just sat around and waited.
All right, moving on to Spay Loop, also on our Reddit. It's really fun. It's really fun to hear about your cardio adventures and how your markers are improving. Now that you're on the right path, are you considering Norwegian intervals sometime in the future?
Yeah, this brought me back. I did these, I think it was 2012, where we have this traditional, popular cross-country race in Sweden. It's called Vasaloppet, the Vasa race, from Gustav Vasa, the king who escaped from the Danes by skiing 90 kilometers, so 9 European miles, that is, to avoid the Danish soldiers, and then gathered an army and took back Sweden.
Fuck the Danes.
Like maybe they should have caught him. Who knows? And that has become a famous race that like 100,000 people do every year now. They have like more than a week filled with different races along this distance.
And some people do it in the summer on a bike as well.
Yeah, and there's a running ultra marathon too, but just on skis, 100,000 people do it. I think the number is something like
cool.
that. And I did that. First I did when I was a teen, I did the half race, the half Vasan, and then I did the full one, Öppet spår for the Swedes out there, the open one where you don't start simultaneously. I think the max is 16,000 people per race, and then they have many races. So anyway, living already by then in the southernmost tip of Sweden, we rarely get snow down here. So your practice gets to consist of roller skis, which is kind of similar to cross-country skiing, and also using, what do you call those? The machines. Well, basically a ski ergometer, where you have cables to pull on. And so my workout here was most weeks I did one longer kind of zone 3 workout on roller skis, being out for an hour or two towards the end, something like that. And then in the gym with the ski ergometer, I did 1 or 2 sessions per week of Norwegian intervals, because they were popular among cross-country skiers back then. I think they still are. And what it is that you do 4 repeats or 4 intervals times 4 minutes, so 4 by 4. Often cardio exercise of choice, in this case on the ski ergometer. And this should be almost max intent. Like at the end of those 4 minutes, you should be really, really tired. Maybe dial it down a bit, like 90% of a maximum performance. And then you should rest for 2 to 3 minutes before repeating it until you've done 4 of those. One of the things about rest times here, if you once again, you might get the impression that if you rest for a short time, you're more disciplined and you're working harder. But even in this case, it would be better to rest longer. If you rest 10 minutes, you're going to be able to perform those 4 minutes at a higher intensity and get better results. But you're also going to increase the stress of the session. So yeah, I did that, and I got really surprised how far this kind of minimalistic training took me in terms of fitness, because I felt that my cardiovascular system was in good shape. What was harder to replicate was all the local muscular tolerance for doing something. I mean, this took me like 8.5 hours or something, going those 90 kilometers. And my knees were sore for so long. But I was really glad about all the deadlifts I had done and all the pull-ups I had done, because the cross-country movement is you extend your low back after each like pull, and you do a lot of pulling with your lats. So yeah, I did them. They are very hard to do. You got to have some kind of strong motivation to be able to do them, or inspiration to get it through session per session. And it's also kind of fun because, you think, okay, so 4 by 4 minutes. My entire workout is only going to take 16 minutes. But for one, you disregard the rest times, and also the half an hour that you spend on the floor afterwards. So they take time too.
I had to...
But it's but it's very high quality, high intensity work. Good tool to have in your pocket.
I don't doubt it. The question was, would we consider doing them in the future? And I didn't even know about these, so I had to look them up. And my immediate response was, no, I will never do this in the future. Sounds horrible. Sounds very effective. But I know myself, and I'm turning 45 in a month. I wouldn't enjoy that.
No, precisely.
I'm in a very positive feedback loop of walking for hours each day. My average these last few weeks have been walking close to 20 kilometers per day.
Yeah, that's badass.
I still haven't missed a single cardio quarters for over a year at the gym, where I sometimes push myself really hard for 15 minutes, and sometimes I let myself go easier, just slow and steady. And this is working for me. If I were to throw a atomic bomb like Norwegian intervals into my cardio adventure, I would quit.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely. I think the same way, when I said it, I toyed with the thought, should I do that in my jogging today? But then I would have to rest for a couple of days after, probably, or I would have the excuse to rest for a couple of days afterwards. And it's a huge risk of making me hate running for a couple of years afterwards. So no, it's not worth it.
I don't need this negativity in my life.
Precisely. That's, keep that for the youngsters. Keep that for Kläbo.
Let's move on to Svenitor, that we now know for sure is a Swede. I called him a German. It's almost the same thing, but in a previous episode. He writes, I have a few training-related questions and a few more personal questions, I believe. First, any pet peeves when it comes to other people's behavior in the gym? And I think we're going to answer his questions in order. So, do you have any pet peeves, Daniel?
I mean, we have all the obvious ones, like not making a mess out of the gym, like re-rack your weights, try to be clean about your chalk. I mean, don't mess up the gym unnecessarily. But something popped up that's a bit more unconventional, and I'm going to put down talkers. So, I mean, you can train and talk between your sets, but then you have to switch into action mode again when it's time to work. And some people don't have that ability to sense when, it's time to train now. They just keep on going. And this is not confined only to the gym. We have this in other settings as well there, where people they don't have that fine tuning for when it's time to work again. So yeah, I'm putting down talkers. Not that it's a huge problem in my lonely garage gym, but it just brought me back.
I had a dude at my gym for almost 7-8 years. I think he has moved on to another gym by now because I haven't seen him in years. But he had that almost creepy ability to never understand And he was in the gym for hours, and sometimes I could see him do something. But most of the time he was just disturbing other gym goers. He was not my favorite person.
All right.
But there's a lot of shit going on at commercial gyms all over the world. But I think that the biggest thing for your own benefit is to focus less on the things that annoy you. I've said this before, I'm going to keep hammering it. If you don't let yourself get annoyed by someone resting 4 minutes on a machine instead of just 90 seconds, you're going to benefit from it. You're going to be in a better mood. You can focus on your own training. Sure, there are some antisocial behaviors in gyms, like people being aggressive or something towards other people, that are completely unacceptable. There are people never re-racking the weights, sure, but focus on yourself and don't care as much, because especially people new to the gym, once they have passed the first phase of being unsure if they fit in and stuff, the next part of the phase is to start getting annoyed at other people, and it's very destructive. So don't be one of those.
Move on to the final stage of Zen.
After injuries, Svenitor asks, any tips to get past the fear of a new injury, or at least live with the fear and still train?
Yeah, you prove to yourself that it's safe and that you can do it.
Yeah.
And you do this by, first you have the calming down phase, and then you have the super light building up phase. But then when it's time to start training again, you need to get receipts that you can do this. And you do it by training. Say that you tore a pec in the bench press, something that can create huge fear among lifters, and I hope neither of us or any of the listeners ever get to experience it. But tearing a pec in the bench press and then trying to get back into heavy bench pressing can be a big fear. But the way that you do it is that you start bench pressing something very, very light, and then the next time you add a tiny bit to that. And after a while, you will be bench pressing the barbell. And after a while, maybe you'll be bench pressing 30% of your old 1 rep max, and then 50%. After a while, maybe 70%. And now you're training again, but you might have still have some fear for those top weights. But if you just inch your way closer, sooner or later, you're going to be at your old record level strength. And you have the proof of all the workouts you've done in the weeks leading up to this, that this has worked out fine. So I'm just going to take this other minuscule step forward until those fears and memories of what happened, they start to fade away and you almost forget about it. That's how you do it.
I think most listeners can relate to having their heart broken in the past. It's almost the same things. You start putting yourself out there, and suddenly you realize that you're not thinking about that heartbreak daily or even weekly. Sometime in the future, you're gonna realize that this injury that scared you so much is just a distant memory. So time is a huge part of it, and doing the things that you did before.
Yeah, so you add 5 pounds to your dating, and just do more sets.
Inject 5 pounds of synthol at a strategically. No, I'm not going to finish that. A more personal question from Svenitor. Who was the coolest 80s and 90s action movie star? Arnold, Stallone, Van Damme, Kurt Russell, or Chuck Norris, or Dolph Lundgren?
Is this a personal question? It's an objective question. It's personal for the actor we mentioned.
Okay, go ahead.
The answer is obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And you're obviously wrong.
No.
Arnold was cool, absolutely. He still is cool. But nobody beats the coolness of Kurt Russell. Okay,
so maybe Kurt is more cool. Arnold is more action.
Arnold is more intimidating. But Kurt Russell, he of these actors mentioned, he's also, as a film snob, he's the most legit actor.
Yeah. Van Damme is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Like, I would move away from the meatheads.
I never really got the Chuck Norris hype. I like the memes, but as an actor or as a person, I was like, yeah, but he's
I think
kind
it
of
was
boring.
before our time.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
Last one from Svenitor. Which is your favorite bad, quote unquote, eating habit? Like, are any unhealthy foods, snacks, candies, or drinks always worth it?
My whole life is a long bad eating habit, and I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to optimize for longevity. I don't care if I live to 100. It's worth it for me.
Yeah.
What about you, Daniel?
Yeah, no, that's the call you gotta make. Is it worth it or not? Really? Yeah. So along the lines of what he's asking, I gotta put down like wine and beer because that, like, it doesn't bring any health benefits or such. It's only for my enjoyment. So yeah, that's it. And yeah, it's worth it. I mean, at times I try to look at it objectively, like is it too much or so, as I think most people think about alcohol at times. But yeah, I keep on deciding that it's worth it.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of it is habitual as well. So, but yeah, that's mine.
I
Love
agree.
me some wine and beer.
Lackluster Lemming on Reddit writes, "Hi, thanks for the great podcast and app. Both have really been a big help, and I hope to listen to and use them for a long time to come. 2 questions. Inspired by the podcast, I've been meaning to try working out daily. However, I'm a bit unsure how to dial in the volume/weight. On the one hand, you sometimes mention people in the gym who are just going through the motions without really giving it their all and without paying attention to progressive overload, and that they will likely plateau fairly early on. On the other hand, with the daily workouts, you say that you really shouldn't be that close to failure in any of the sets. Please correct me if I'm misremembering. Do you have any recommendations of what level of fatigue to aim for?"
Yeah, so back in fall, I did a daily training routine. We podcasted a bit about that. I think if you look through the titles, you might find the ones where we kind of summarized it. But I did this for like half a year or something.
Yeah.
Maybe more than a quarter at least. And yeah, I think that when you are training daily, you should aim to just go through the motions as your baseline, because otherwise it's going to get too much too soon. And instead of trying to do better every workout, you start looking at like a weekly or monthly basis. So that, yeah, this week, my daily workouts are going to be a teeny tiny bit harder than they were last week. And climb towards the ranks in that way. Or maybe you have one hard workout every week and then you go through the motions on 5 or 6 days in the other ones. But yeah, you need to, if you're gonna practice something daily, you can't do too much because that is gonna require you to rest for a couple of days afterwards. So that's how this fits in. Try to gradually raise the baseline, maybe go heavy every now and then. If you want to lift heavy weights, you can do that daily too, but you should do it at very low volume. So we're talking about something along the lines of daily max training, where you just warm up and do a single maxing out. A lot of people seem to be able to tolerate that in many lifts. Bench pressing and squatting are 2 fairly common ones, and a lot of people seem to be able to do it. I think you should be careful about adding back-off sets until you are certain that you can tolerate what you're already doing. But that's another way. I mean, if you don't like the thought of doing like how I did it, maybe a couple of sets of easy 5s every day, if you instead want to go up and lift a heavy weight, you can do it along the daily max lines. It doesn't have to be a max, it can be a sort of max or something like that. But take it easy if you do it every day. And when you've done that for a while, maybe you'll do what I've done now, which is to swing over to doing lower volume, higher intensity training, and then you can go back again and just work your way upwards towards glory that way.
You've also done a very informative video on this on our YouTube that he or she can check out.
Yeah, and it's fun because, I mean, it's so easy to chalk down the gains towards just skill development and neuromuscular changes, but I'm still a big believer in that you have a lot of physiological changes in your tissues when you do something every day, even if it's not very heavy. So I think both of those are in there as well.
I think it
But then
adds
sooner or
up.
later it seems, or later it seems like it stops working, and then you have to do something same but different.
It could also be that for it to continue to working, you might need to add a lot more time each day, which
maybe.
might not be doable for most people. So yeah, we don't know. It's a concept that's not suitable for most people that struggle to get into the gym 3 days per week. And
Precisely.
when we're talking about going through the motions in a negative sense, we're talking about people that are working out 2 or 3 times per week for an hour and always doing the exact same workout. They have reached a plateau. They are not challenging themselves. You could view us as being judgmental, but we're trying to be helpful. But the issue is that these people will never listen to this podcast anyway. So
Probably.
he had a follow-up question on a more personal note. Other than strength training, is there any particular hobby that each of you are passionate about?
And this, it's really easy to fall into interests when I talk about hobbies. They feel like they're so closely aligned, but a hobby has to be something more active that you do.
I looked up the Wikipedia definition. A hobby is considered to be a regular activity that is done for enjoyment, typically during one's leisure time. And that might be correct, but for me, a hobby is something when I want to improve and I'm prepared to spend time and also money on it in most cases.
That too.
If I were to get into woodworking, that would be a typical example of that would be time consuming, that would drain my wallet probably.
You would get all the gear.
I would have machines that cost like $10,000 and that I would use once and then it would just stay in the background for 4 years before I were ready to use it again or something.
But it would be the best machine.
Yeah, it would be the best machine. No, but I have a few hobbies. My biggest, longest running hobby of my life is definitely trying to learn how to cook. I've spent so many hours researching cooking, practicing cooking, spending money on cooking. So it might be something almost everybody does, but for me, it's a true passion. It's a hobby. And more recently in my life, wine has become a very expensive hobby. But I call it a hobby because I go on wine trips to learn more about wine. I read books about wine.
Definitely a hobby.
So it's not just I enjoy a glass of wine with my food. No, I want to learn wine. I want to be able to identify wine. I want to be able to tell difference. I want to be a wine geek. I don't want to be a wine snob, but I want to be a geek about it. And my final hobby are, I'm not going to say movies because that's for ordinary people. It's films.
So it's like exercise and training.
Yeah, I've been into films for as long as I can remember, and as I grew older and had more time to spend on watching films instead of being in bars trying to pick up ladies. My interest has grown and I read a lot about films and filmmaking, and I try to educate myself on all periods of filmmaking. I watch a lot of movies from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. I want to get a complete knowledge about films up to the current day. So that's a very time-consuming hobby for me as well.
Yeah,
I have a supportive partner when it comes to it. She's not as into films as I am. Few people are, but definitely.
Does she usually watch them with you? Like in most cases?
In most cases, yes. But like she has something after work today, a dinner she's going to. So I'll be able to watch A movie from the 80s I've never watched before that I'm going to check off my list. It's called Shoot to Kill.
Yeah.
I think it's from 1988 with Sidney Poitier. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you name one favorite film? Is that possible?
Absolutely not.
No.
If you give me
Not even Lord of the Rings, maybe?
It's definitely up there. I think it's a masterpiece in almost all sense of the word. There's some stuff I would take out, and I could do.
But it's
with
a bad question.
Yeah.
But being a bad question kind of makes it a good question in a sense as well.
But like, ask me about my favorite early 80s body horror movie or horror movie or something, and I might answer The Thing with Kurt Russell. From 1982.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, he was the monster. He played the dog in the first scene. Yeah,
in the Austrian dubbed version.
You also have hobbies and interests, Daniel.
Yeah, precisely. Something that comes to mind immediately is seeing the sun peeking through the window is gardening, which, I mean, it's both a hobby. I do a lot of gardening and growing my own greens in my tiny little yard that I have, but it's also become a bigger interest in recent years. Like I've taken a huge interest in ecosystems. So obviously, like say the Swedish ecosystems and how plants and fungus and insects and animals intertwine. I think it's extremely interesting, and that ties in then with climate change just going on. How is that going to affect different things? So yeah, really interesting topic. I physically, I mean, except for like reading about it and listening to podcasts about it, I do gardening in my yard. I've started to do a bit of phantom planting. You know, when you see like when you see barren fields of only green grass, which are basically a green desert, you can phantom plant some things in there to create greater biodiversity, because the ecosystem part of it, that is the biodiversity thing, which is so interesting to me. But I'm also like fantasizing and getting a bigger plot of land, maybe either like a small forest plot or something that I could start growing into forest plot. Obviously, I wouldn't see the later stages of it because this is huge timescales going on. But that's a topic where it's tricky to know if it should only be a fantasy or if you really want it. Who knows? Maybe I'll take steps towards that. That's one hobby. Another hobby is definitely reading, which it has been for a long time now. And the way I put it as a hobby is that I'm quite particular about doing it and keeping it up. Yeah. And I'm once again back to I'm using the streak function in our app, and my daily tally is that I want 20 pages in a book per day, which is in most books pretty easy to do and often results in reading maybe 50 pages. Yeah. But in some books, this can take me over an hour because they are so dense and boring, and I snooze off. So it's amazing what a difference it can be. Some books you can read 150 pages easier than you can read 20 pages in some other book. But yeah, that I really much enjoy reading, and that goes through seasons as well. When I was younger and probably needed it more, I was more into reading about economics, self-development, productivity, and things like that. Now I'm meandering more. I might read history or culture. I might read fiction. It wavers a lot more. But I'm excited about books, and I want to get many under my belt because they enrich my life so much. Another hobby on a small scale is playing the guitar. I started as a kid, and now once again this 20 pages per day, I started that many years ago, and I have done it to and fro, and now I've gotten practice at doing something daily, so I've been able to add more daily things without them being overwhelming, because I have like my streaks tab now is starting to get pretty full, and I don't recommend people trying to start a streak to do that, to get a lot of streaks, but I've practiced this kind of checklists for a while now, so I can add more. And one of the streaks I check off is to practice playing the guitar for at least 5 minutes per day. And as mentioned, oftentimes it turns into 30 minutes, or some days it's only 5 minutes, but it oftentimes more, because the hard thing is to start. It's like writers who set the goal of write 300 words per day, and often it becomes 2,000 words.
Yeah.
So I do that, trying to learn different songs. One that's more, I'm not certain if it qualifies as a hobby, but that is coaching my son's soccer team. It kind of feels like a hobby because it's become an interest where I read about it. I watch YouTube instruction movies about it and so on, and it takes, time, but it's not essential as a work is. But that's become a big interest as well.
Yeah.
Moving on down the list, I have many things going on. I've picked up sketching again, like drawing. Once
With,
again, the goal, pencils.
Yeah.
Once again, the goal is to do at least 5 minutes per day and see where that gets me. And I'm practicing faces right now.
I would have picked another body part, but sure.
Yeah. And when I started, this is quite new to do it in this structured way. So new hobby, we'll see if it sticks. But I found that when I started practicing faces that I messed up the eyes every time. So now I'm mostly doing eyes, but we'll see how that moves along. Another hobby, I suppose it is I don't play a ton of video games, and for long stretches I don't play them at all, but I'm once again back into playing a bit of Minecraft, where I like building things, like houses, villages. I enjoy that, and now I'm in a phase where I do a bit of it on most days. I suppose that's a hobby, maybe? I don't know, maybe it's just entertainment.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just entertainment. And the last one, then I'm gonna drop this question, is carpentry, which also has waken up now again when the spring is coming around. I have a list of things I want to build, and once again, I wish I had more places to put things.
Give us an example of something you want to build.
Storages in my garage gym and in our storage shed. I need to make that more effective. I'm considering building a dip stand, or a dip, dip rack to do dips in. The thing that's putting it into question is if I have the place for it, because then I would have that standing somewhere. So then I'm thinking about what kind of minimalistic designs can I do? Can I do something that folds out and so on? There's a bit of repair work that needs to be done around the house. I'm thinking about redoing one of the wooden decks, maybe building do you say pergola in English? I don't know. Clue. Maybe say pergola, planting some nice plants to climb on that. So yeah, those are some examples.
You should learn welding as well.
I know. I'm thinking about it, but I don't have room for the stuff. I don't have room for the welding machine.
Funnily enough, I follow some mechanic YouTubes where they do a lot of metal work and welding. And these modern, like TIG welders, they don't take up that much space, and they are very powerful.
But even as for my wooden tools, I don't have all the basic stuff because I have nowhere to put them.
Yeah.
So this ties in then with that fantasy of getting a bigger plot of land so I can have big sheds and workshops. Yeah. But then all the costs of that is, I have 3 kids, and they have activities every day of the week, and they have a lot of friends, which it's very convenient if we live close by, so they can bike to them. So that's the cost of it. So yeah, but I keep busy. I once again, like my father, he was a plumber, but he had a goal very early on to not work until retirement age. So I did entrepreneurial things on the side, and then when he could quit in at 55, he filled his days immediately with all his hobbies. And I'm kind of similar to him, that I have no problem filling my days with stuff to do.
I think we're way past 90 minutes. Maybe we should do one final question on a lighter note here. This was a lighter note as well, but Marielle on Instagram asked us what our push-up PRs are and the current approximate levels in push-ups.
This is a funny question.
Yeah,
you go ahead.
I know that you're gonna succeed me in this discussion by talking about different techniques and stuff. But when we're talking about maxing out in push-ups, people care about the number of reps you can do. They don't
and
care.
It's 1,000.
Yeah. No, but it's a funny question for me because back in 2010, when I had like a wake up of needing to get back into training after an 11-year hiatus as a young man, I downloaded an app on my iPhone called something like 100 Pushups. And the goal with the app was a training program that should bring the user closer to being able to do 100 push-ups. And that sounded fun. I was way lighter back then. I weighed around 80 kilos, maybe 78 or something. And in the beginning, I could do, I was not completely out of shape. I could do like 15 or 20 push-ups. But after 2 months, I could do more than 70 push-ups, and it started to get really, really boring doing a lot of push-ups.
And painful. And uncomfortable.
Yeah. So that's when I got my gym membership, and I've been going to the gym ever since. That's almost 16 years now.
Yeah.
I gave up on my goal of ever doing 100 push-ups. And this was way before we had our app, but I went into our app to see what my Pushup PR was in the app, and that was from April 2021 when I was doing bodybuilding ballet, where you ended your chest workouts with push-ups, meaning I had done bench presses, dumbbell presses on a incline bench before, and also some machine chest work.
Yeah.
So I was tired, but apparently when I weighed around 130 kilos, I could do 35 push-ups, which surprised me. I didn't remember I was able to do, I think my form was quite decent as well, because I focused on bodybuilding back then.
Yeah.
I think that if I were to drop down on the floor now, I could maybe hammer out 25. Something like that. I haven't trained push-ups in a long while, except for the calendar door in our advent calendar back in December that had some push-ups in it.
Yeah.
Maybe I could train myself up to doing 40 or something. I weigh 10 kilo less today than I did back in 2021. That should be helpful.
And as soon as you would set a goal of trying to reach max reps, you would start to refine your technique for doing max reps.
Of course.
When you drop the goal of doing them to train your chest muscles, and you start doing them to get as many push-ups in, because it's a huge difference there.
Yeah,
but
tell us all about it.
First, I want to just circle back and say that I love things like that 100 push-ups app. I think I had the same one for a time.
Yeah.
Because imagine how many people that apps like that acts as a gateway to strength training, because it's so easy and accessible to just do a few push-ups, and it's a contained challenge, so to say. So love things like that to get people inspired to do a bit of strength training. A small, funny little challenge. Even if like no one reaches 100 push-ups, they get started. But for my part, when I train push-ups to increase my pushing strength and muscle, I never get up to 20 reps. I usually do around 10 to 15 reps per set. When I bench pressed 160 kilos, weighing around 110, that was in large part from me doing sets of 10 reps in the push-up. Earlier on, way earlier, back in, I think it was 2013, before we had an app, before we even had our Swedish podcast, and I was not as strong in my pressing muscles. My job, an office job, I was a fire protection engineer, had a push-up competition that the bosses had forced upon everyone. And I won that in our little team of 12 people with 55 reps. And I think even at that time, I appreciated good form, but the way I did it was to look around to see, okay, what kind of form are we doing? And then I did something similar to that, but it was still fairly deep. But you could rest in the top position which made it surprisingly much easier to just take your time until you're ready to do it again. And I stopped at 55 because that's when the second best one had quit. So, but my point is that I'm better at push-ups today than I was in 2013. And for me to get 55 reps would require a lot of technique unlearning and relearning to do them in a different way, I think.
Yeah.
So it really depends on how you do them. Because I remember when I hit that 160 kilo bench press and I said, yeah, I do 10 sets of 10 push-ups every day. And people were like, what are you talking about? I can drop down and do 60, 70 push-ups easily now. So yeah, it's a fun topic. I like the question.
Yeah. Oh my God, my battery for the first time ever in this podcast history gave me a warning. It was fully loaded. When we've been going for so long, Daniel.
Yeah, this is gonna take some time to go over. Shall we wrap a bow on it?
We should. I hope that the listeners that stuck through this episode, this 100th episode, appreciated the looser format of us maybe not diving as deep into each subject and having some more discussions about personal stuff. I sure appreciated it, and I'm very grateful to all people who asked questions. I know there's a lot of questions that remained unanswered. We can't go for 5 hours, but I'll keep going back to these Q&A threads that we had posted to see for future episodes if there's something we can bring up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Towards episode 200.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
I think we will reach it. I don't see why not.
I think so too. I'm very bullish podcasting just for the company's sake, and I greatly enjoy it.
Yeah, me too.
And we appreciate everyone listening. And next week, I'm guessing we're going to be back with a scientific study on training or nutrition, or handpicked some topic that you have requested. So to get that in your feed, just hit follow or subscribe on this podcast, and we will catch you next week.
Train hard, eat well, die anyway.